Everyone to the Town of Highland Beach Town Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, September 5th, and it's 1:30. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If we could please have the roll call.
Commissioner Goldberg. Commissioner Peters,
Present.
Commissioner David,
Present.
Vice Mayor Stern,
Present.
Mayor Moore,
Present.
Town Manager Labadie,
Present.
and Town Attorney Tercivia.
If we could please rise for the pledge. Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any changes to the agenda? If there are no changes, could we have a motion?
No changes.
I move we accept the agenda as written, the minutes as written. Sorry, the agenda is written.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, next item, presentations, proclamations. We have resolution number 2023-019, a resolution of the town of the Highland Beach, Florida, ratifying the selection, appointments, and term of office of members of the Board of Adjustments and Appeals and providing for an effective date. And I guess we do have one change. Ms. Rosin does not wish to be reappointed at this time. Looks like she has her sights set on a different board, so we
Yes.
will continue to have her volunteerism, which is great. But we do have Mr. Weiss. If you would like to come and introduce yourself and tell us a few things, and then each of us will ask you a couple questions.
Hi, my name is Todd Weiss. I've been a resident of Highland Beach for a little over a year and a half now. I am in the real estate business, developing and also as a luxury realtor. And I think that my experience would be beneficial for this committee.
Great, well, welcome. I guess we'll go through each of the commissioners with a couple of questions. Commissioner Goldberg, do you want to get started?
Thank you for coming forward.
Sure.
We're grateful that you do. So tell us what had moved you to come to the town and offer your public service today?
Well, so as an empty nester, we do what most people do. We downsized, found this great place over in Boca Cove and really enjoying it. And I always like to be part of the community, so that's why I'm here.
Have you served on boards or committees in any other jurisdiction?
I have been on the board HOA in my previous neighborhood out in West Boca. I was on that board for 3 years.
Did you enjoy that?
I liked it, yeah, it was fun.
Well, hopefully the town commission will give you more peace than the average board.
I would hope so, yeah.
Well, thank you again for coming forward.
Thanks for having me.
Nothing.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for volunteering and your resume looks great and I welcome you to Highland Beach.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm just curious, what caused you to go from the hospitality industry into real estate? They don't really mesh.
I like challenges, so I thought it'd be a good option during COVID to make the change. And right now I'm working for William Ravis, and we just got awarded the #1 brokerage in the country by Inman. So it's a pretty big honor to be part of that.
Great, and I echo, thank you for applying.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for applying, very well qualified, and we welcome you to the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and I am feeling the same way. Thank you so much for volunteering. We've had a vacancy on this board for a long time, so thanks for stepping up.
Thank you. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Great. So as a new resident, anything that you see that you would like, any initial thoughts about the town or that you'd like to see?
We love it here.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Nothing negative to say about Highland Beach.
Oh, great. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we all feel the same way. So welcome and thank you for volunteering.
Yep, thank you.
So if we could have a motion, please. Well, I think we could just move to accept resolution 2023-019 with amending Ms. Rosen.
I second.
Oh,
I didn't make the motion.
Did you make that
to it.
motion?
No,
Did you
I-
make that motion? Okay.
No. I move that we accept resolution number 2023-019, removing Eve Rosen's name and substituting Todd Weiss.
Thank you very much.
I second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving on to public comments. Oh, thank you.
Yep.
I think it's just you right now. You can state your name.
I will try and go through this as quickly as possible. But there is a lot to say. I'm here to talk about Milani Park. But first, I want to say I have been extremely pleased sitting back and watching this commission and our town manager, Mr. Labadie, and how you've been working since this last election. In my 27 years in town, I've never seen a group working so cohesively together. And it's really affected in terms of how things are in the town, the amount of information getting out in emails and whatever. If someone doesn't know something about something, it's their own fault. So with that, I want to talk about Milani Park. I think what agitated me or moved me forward was the coastal newsletter. Thank you, Rick Pollock, if you're here for that information. I have a letter that was put in front of you that I'm going to read parts of. It was a letter from December 12, 2005, addressed to two commission members and the town manager at that time. And I will read and I will quote, "I've been able to acquire a copy of Palm Beach County's archaeological consultants report for a cultural resource assessment survey of the Milani property. I understand that the town previously received a copy a long time ago, but no one's been able to find it. I am leaving the report with the town manager so that everyone who has access to the report. I should point out that this consultant, the archaeological consultant in 2005, felt there were significant archaeological resources in the proposed park area, and I'm quoting from the report. They also felt that the county should consider nomination of the archaeological remains in Milani Park to the National Historic Register of Places." There's an interesting article that was published in 2007 by one of the curators of the Palm Beach Museum of Natural History, in which he identifies 11 sites that they have remains for in this museum. Of the 11 sites that they have remains, one site, Highland Beach Mound, which we're talking about here, which is the Milani property, had 128 bodies of remain. The next site had only, the second site of the 11 only had 29 number of remains. So what you're seeing is the richness of this site in terms of archaeological resources. What happened to this 2005 report? My understanding is the county, don't worry about it, the county's going to do an archaeological survey now. Well, things haven't changed in 18 years. What happened to the previous report? Why was it never applied for in terms of National Historic Registry of Sites, which would have eliminated any development on that site? My concern is, as a consultant for 58 years, mostly in the environmental business, consultants are good, but it depends on who hires them and how they're handled. And I would bet money we're not going to see this kind of language in this current report coming up. I think we need to take a strong position requesting the 2005 report, and as that's number one. Okay. Number two, we had a big public meeting back in 2005 as well, public hearing. We need to get copies of the public hearing as well, and particularly the testimonies of the Mississippi and the Seminole that were presented at that meeting. Those two things we need to get. But let's talk further about it. Why do they want it? They wanted a swimming beach. Well, I live about half a mile down the road from it. It's not a swimming beach. At high tide, there is no beach. We have all the pictures to prove that. In addition, half of the site is taken up by Yamato Rock. So what are we going to see with any kind of wave action? What do you think is going to happen with people swimming near that beach with half the site rock? Either our emergency crew is going to be literally stationing somebody there during peak time periods on weekends and things like that, or the county should station their own people there, because you're going to have loads of injuries with respect to Yamato Rock. So those are three reasons why there should be no development on east of A1A. Let's talk about the west side. I think previously, I don't think this commission, but at least prior commissions have seen pictures of what we call the duck pond on the Milani Lake. The water comes down the hill from Sea Ranch and goes onto that site and creates a duck pond, literally. Where's that water going if they fill that site in? It's going to go down the road onto A1A. When we addressed the A1A construction for Florida Dot, said, well, what are you going to do about this water? It's not our concern. Well, it is our concern because we live here. So these are things that we have to take a proactive stance. We can't wait for the town, or rather for the commissioners to get their own reports from their own consultants. We need to move forward on these things and request this type of information. And one last thing, I know I'm out of time, but I'll be quick. They talk about, oh, there won't be any impact on the east side because we're going to have boardwalks. Well, how do you think the boardwalks get built? They don't just get dropped in there mysteriously. There's going to be equipment going in there, constructing them. There's going to be holes, there's going to be concrete. And we're talking about a major mess in an archaeological site. So thank you very much for the time. Any
Thank-
questions?
Thank you very much for your comments. Really appreciate it. Any other public comments? Okay, hearing none, moving on to announcements. We have some board vacancies. I guess we still have two, well, one vacancy, or is it two now? If. Well.
They had to.
It
No.
will be, 3.
It will continue to have three vacancies?
Yes,
Okay,
because
that's what I
Ms.
thought.
Rosen,
Okay,
and
so,
just for the record, we also have an upcoming planning board appointment that I was made aware of this morning that someone resigned. You all will get the email later
Okay.
today.
okay. So we've got some vacancies, so we appreciate everyone's volunteerism. So if anyone else wants to volunteer, we would appreciate it. Upcoming meetings and events, we have another meeting today at 5:01 PM. And it's the Town Commission Special First Public Hearing Budget Meeting. After that, September 19th at 1:30, we have our regular Town Commission meeting. September 21st, we have a Planning Board regular meeting at 9:30 in the morning. And then on that same day, September 21st at 5:01 PM, we have the Town Commission Special Second Public Hearing Budget Meeting. There are no board action reports. Item number 8, ordinances. We don't have any to discuss today. Item number 9, we have one item on the consent agenda, and that's the approval of the meeting minutes for the August 24th, 2023 meeting. Do we have any discussion? If not, if we could have a motion for the.
I
consent-
move that we accept the minutes from the August 24th, 2023 commission meeting.
I'll second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to unfinished business. Fire rescue implementation update. Is this?
Yeah, so as they come forward, because they're also going to tie this into the hurricane preparation manual that everybody in the community got sent out to them. So the fire marshal will talk about that a little bit. Chief Joseph will give us an update on the project, but in the big picture, on schedule, on budget, so that's good.
Hey,
Chief?
Vice Mayor, Commissioners,
Yeah.
been a couple of weeks since I've been here, so quick update. The station build is well underway. We're beginning the second floor, actually pouring the slab for the second floor by the end of next week, and then we'll begin building the concrete. We should have it covered and dried, it's saying by early November. So it will be dried out and then begin the internal work of putting in the infrastructure on the inside. Hiring process, we had, I think 11 candidates interview. We've shortlisted, we've actually running 3 candidates right now through the process background check, which is pretty extensive. And so we have another 4 or 5 candidates that are qualified, waiting in the wings if anybody falls out, so we're good there. Firefighters, we had 49 total applicants. We closed out at the end of this month, at the end of August. So the last was actually Sunday, this past Sunday, we closed everything out. And we had 49 applicants, 42 have met all elements, they passed all the elements, so we'll begin sorting them by rank and then probably begin interviews. We're hoping by scheduling them by the end of September. Because we want to do the drivers first, we had, let's see, 15 driver candidates. And they all passed all the elements, so we just gotta pick the top of what we think we like. I'm looking for people that's senior, I could step up with experience. So we have a good number. That's for 6 candidates, we have double what we need. That's a good place to start. So we're just starting to rank the candidates for the driver and the firefighters, schedule interviews, and then background. Background's pretty extensive, so it takes about a month, maybe a month and a half to get all the backgrounds done. We gotta go to their employers, we gotta go to the HR documents to make sure we're getting the person we think we're getting. Because we don't want to go through that back and forth. So everything is on track. I just had, I was late coming here because of the meeting with Locution, which is the alerting system that we're tying into Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. We had a kickoff meeting today. All the players were there. We have another meeting scheduled for in a couple of weeks, just put all the stakeholders together, make sure we have a good program, and we look at an install date for that system around the end of January, February, and they'll want all the wires through, so we'll have the alerting system in place. Any questions? I think about other things to talk about.
I have a comment.
Oh,
It is very exciting to see this dream of that firehouse coming up. To see them, raising it as I take my walks down the A1A. It's just wonderful.
all good.
And you're doing
It's exciting.
fabulous job. Thank
exciting.
you so much.
Very, very good. I think the whole community is excited about it. Gentleman just reached out to me today. He wants to do community paramedic, which is another level above. I'm like, hold on, let's get the EMS started first. But I'm gonna schedule a meeting with him for this coming Thursday to see what he has to say and what his ideas are. My mustache is going great. I'm gonna have to shave it off because stress, but we'll make it happen. If you have any questions or comments, let me know.
Yeah, Chief, most of the applicants are experienced or younger or a little bit older.
For the firefighter paramedics, about half are young.
Oh, good.
But the other half are more senior, and we're definitely looking to get a good mix, because we want to create a culture. And we want that legacy to continue, so we want to get enough people in that are old enough to create that positive culture, concierge service that you're used to.
Right.
And then that have transition as these people do a succession plan. When these people transition out, we want people with that same culture taking their place. So we want a good mix between people with gray hair and people with the black hair, or brown hair, blonde hair, whatever, to kind of transition through that. So we have to look at it as a long, you have to look at longitudinally. You can't look at, hey, I need 50 people and get the best people I can right now.
Right.
We have to look at the long-term plan as to how do we transition people into becoming members of the team. And you're aware of your community here and the leadership that we have. We have a great team. From my experience of working on the places, we have a very, very progressive, very involved, very motivated team. So we don't want to be that brown eye coming in making the problem. So we got to pick those people carefully with the plan of next 5, 10, 15 years. So that transition happens and we maintain that culture, that connection to the community.
That's a good transition. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, this has not been an easy short-term project. And I'm sure we all, and I personally, thank you tremendously, because there were all those people who said we'd never get it done, and we are. So hats off. Thank
We have a
you.
great team. The team working here is just unbelievable. Matt was there the same thing. 'Cause he's worked at places, so, Matt?
I have a comment too. I think when we first started this, we weren't sure how many applicants we would have. And I'm really pleased to hear that you've had a number, a good amount of applicants and qualified applicants.
Yeah, I wanted double plus what we needed. So, because there'll be some attrition as some people come in, some people have just grow from unit to unit, from house to house, trying to make a home for themselves. But having a double plus is always a good thing. It gives you the flexibility of choosing what you want, and then being able to plan ahead. A lot of smaller departments like ours, in fact, I was at the Fire Rescue East, this past January, and the lament of most of the small department, 1 and 2 station departments, is that they can't find people. And here we are, we have a very small community, but we have more than what we needed. And they're all very qualified. Some of these people have been battalion chiefs that are applying to become captains. We have people that are chief officers wanting to come here and be a driver, which is, I don't hear about this. So I think our reputation precedes us. I think they know what they're getting into. And I think we're gonna have a successful organization. I think we're gonna have a very progressive, very forward-looking organization.
Yeah, I think that is a huge attribute to your leadership and the team's leadership here that, that's why you're attracting so many applicants and so many qualified applicants. So thank you again for all that you're doing.
Well, thanks, but again, it's a team. I mean, it's not only me.
Right.
People come in, they
Absolutely.
talk to the manager, we talk to the team, the assistant managers. Eric is a huge part of that facing the public. And they have a good experience, want to come back and they're motivated to stay. So it's a team effort. I think it's the whole community itself, the whole team. City Hall is doing an outstanding job.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, how y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Matt?
Welcome.
I was asked by the city manager to come in and talk about the hurricane manual that we prepared and put out. Getting back to what Glenn was saying, this was a team effort. It wasn't just me. I put the initial document together and then that went over to the police department. They added a lot to it to try and, kind of make it a more concise document for Highland Beach. And I think we did a pretty good job with that. So here we are, about 18 pages long. At the back of this, you'll see a reference to the county's hurricane plan. So that's available to anybody. We have a lot of links that connect to a lot of other programs. So it's pretty easy to kind of move through and get to the places that you need. And then obviously there's the ability to register with the town of Highland Beach so that you can get more information out as things happen. The hurricane season's kind of really starting to kick up. This is the time of year. We wanted to get this out and try to get ahead of the game a little bit. So I don't know if y'all have any questions about what might be in here.
Well, thank you for putting that together. I think it's a really important document for us to have specifically because it is so specific as far as, what people should do. Because I think sometimes we talk about, prepare for the hurricane, but this actually has, line item things of what to pack in your bag and what to do and, for different age groups and things like that. And, I think maybe we could even look at it and if there's anything we would like to add or, I think this is probably a living document that we could modify as needed. So I guess I invite everyone to take a look at it and suggest any additions or improvements that you see fit. I guess one thing, so it was emailed to us, which is excellent. Not everybody is so good with email. So I guess I was wondering,
So the
are there any
concept-
other plans for distribution of
Yeah,
this
the
manual?
concept was to get it out to I don't know if y'all saw the other letter that went out like a little bit prior to this. That was for me, so that just to kind of get a little background on it. So Glenn and I can get out, meet the people in the community. We've got the 43 high rises that we have here, and we want to get out there and start doing some assessments on that. I have to say thank you very much for y'all approving the ordinance. It's been sent up to Tallahassee. And that was a big part of this because that gave us then the authority to kind of move forward with some of these things. As of October 1st, that's our goal, is to start getting out into the community. With the email that went out, it went out to those same places. The letter was, hey, this is coming out. Please distribute it, within the system of whatever systems they may have in place, whether it's in the lobby, print it out, or if they have an email list to the residents within each building, trying to get that out as much as we can. There's a couple other email lists that we're considering that the town has to try and get it out to as many people as possible. And this is kind of I would say more of a test because we have a lot of plans to get some, different public welfare programs, moving forward. I'm putting together a schedule over the next, say, 12 months of things that we want to do. Beginning kind of, May 1st. There's some things that we may send out before that, but, put a plan together so that we have an ongoing communication with the residents. And that they know, they have access back to us. And that's really important, for us to accomplish the goals that we want to accomplish. So that, we're still pursuing and obviously always open to suggestions on other means by which to kind of get this out. One of the big things is promoting it so that we get people who live here registered in the town's email system. So that, they're already in our system as we communicate. So that's kind of, that's the best answer I can give you right now. And I'm learning as I go, with, what's available in town for us to communicate out. And I think we're going to be, with PD, we want to expand on that.
I think probably at some point we'll need to print it out
Yeah,
and
we-
hand
we do have
distribute
some
it.
Copies available. and,
Okay,
I mean, that's part of it, but, printing them is,
I know. Yeah.
especially the limited traffic right now
Right.
coming through City Hall.
Right, right.
So,
Yeah. The other comment I would make is, so we sent that email and I know it is in the website, but it's kind of, you have to navigate through the website, to have it a little bit more prominent on the website, on the homepage somewhere, because I do think that important of a document. The other thing I'd say is, so, when we have to evacuate, and I'm guilty of this, just the specific plans for people of where to go. And I'm gonna, Commissioner David has really excellent plans. And I don't know if we could discuss maybe what some people do as best practices.
Mhm.
So Commissioner David, I don't know if you could describe what it is that you do. your
Sure,
evacuation plan.
And this isn't my whole building, but there is a group of us from 2 buildings actually, who I guess maybe in June, we get hotel reservations.
Mhm.
We pay the $130 or whatever it is to register for a room, and we have that room. And I've done this in the past, and if you need to stay more than the one night, they don't have any other people coming in. So there has never been a problem with staying. And it has worked out wonderfully well. You don't have to worry at the last minute where you're going to get a hotel from. You've already paid for it. You have until I think the middle of December to use it. And if you don't, it was a good insurance policy. I know in my building, what we have started doing is we lock it down. We shut down the elevators, we shut everything down, and our elevators run on natural gas. So we could run them, but we're not, and our generator does, but we're not going to have a generator continuously running. But we can get people out. And once you leave, you can't get back in. And so far it's worked okay, because in the past we've had the people who need to get out the first are the ones who refuse to move. And that's a major problem, because that's not the kind of services a building can provide.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are other ways of dealing with it, but I listened a lot to when they were talking about the most current hurricanes. And they said, you don't have to go 100 miles away. I know the hotel I go to is just west of 95. And it's fine. It's not anywhere near any water at that point. And they have a garage,
Mhm.
so you don't have to park outside. But, make a plan. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Make a contingency plan. Where are you going to go? And don't count on being able to get a flight out, because that's a very risky process, because they canceled them. If the winds come up, if the rain, those flights are being canceled, and then you're stuck at an airport.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Well, I can only give you my experience. I grew up here, lived here, been through a number of hurricanes, not only, personally when I was a kid, growing up and then working in the fire service. I was deployed on several hurricanes, including Katrina, over to just last year, to Ian over on the West Coast. So I understand, the dynamics of this. Part of the problem with the evacuations is, people become complacent because, because of some of the tragic things that have occurred, they've tried to notice people much sooner, which is a great idea. It's good to have all those plans in place and absolutely should do that. And this is what this document kind of leads to. And it also talks about the fact that buildings are going to be closed down. And the reality is if there's a hurricane, category 2, category 3 or greater coming to Highland Beach, and that's, the expectation. The fire service and the police PD are not going to be. No. We will be the last to evacuate. And I know from experience that some people just aren't going to leave. Now, that could be because they just don't think it's going to hit them. But in certain cases, there's people due to, just the conditions of their situation, they may not really be able to go anywhere else. And what I've done in the past is gone to all the buildings. I try to collect a list of people who may be in that particular condition, may not be able to leave. If we can convince them and actually transport them someplace that would be safer, we would try to do that. But at the end of the day, the first thing we're going to do when we get back here is try to track down those individuals and see what's going on with them. We know the elevators are going to be locked down. Part of what we did in the ordinance was try to make sure that we have the ability, if we take a direct hit, it's probably not going to be the case, but if we get, if the buildings are in a decent enough condition, we can get the generators up and running. We can still get people, even if we don't have power for an extended period of time. Those generators are important because we can at least have elevator service for 24 hours. That's the goal. We can go in, we can get people out of the building post-storm and try to get them to a better place. The term mandatory evacuation doesn't mean Island Beach PD or Island Beach Fire Rescue is going to be knocking on your door saying, we're taking him out of here. We're not going to do that. That would be difficult. It doesn't happen anymore. But the bridges are going to be closed. There's a lot of things that are going to occur. And we just have to manage that as best we can. But to some degree, people have to be, let us know ahead of time. That's the goal of this. Let us know. And I believe, one of the links in here is to the police department, let them know if you're somebody who's going to have a difficult time being evacuated. And at least we'll know they're here. The things you were talking about are fantastic. And I know a lot of people do that. The reason people get complacent is because over time, I don't know if you recall the storm a couple of years ago where, they said it was going to come ashore, Boca Raton, right? It was coming. And as the time went on, the storm kept going further and further, and it ended up going through the Straits of Florida and coming in and going up the West Coast and hitting up in the Panhandle. But we had people, including our own families, right? Going over to the West Coast, coming back to the East Coast, going back and forth. It's really difficult to kind of make those judgment calls. But that's just, this is the paradise we chose to live in. And we have to learn to kind of deal with some of those realities. And, I'm hoping that this gives people enough information to where they can kind of think those things through, do some of the things that you were talking about, and be prepared. That's, be prepared for whatever you need to do.
And one of the things I try to do is have a bag ready to go. Then you don't have to worry about packing it up.
Right.
Make sure you can catch your animals to take them with you. Bring water with you, because even though where you're going, hopefully we'll have it, but what if it goes out?
Yep.
So that you you have flashlights, you have all the things that I'm sure the manual suggests that put it together and have it in one place. I'm a firm believer. If they tell me to get out, I'm going. I don't care if I have to go a dozen times and I only needed it once. I'm going that dozen times. Because it's the one time you don't go that there's a loss of life and there's a problem. And I'd rather not see that happen. But thank you.
Certainly. Anybody else have any comments or questions or anything else they'd like to see that we can do to make this a better document?
No, I think it's great. It's a great supplement to the plans that we already have in place. It's very good.
I'd like to inquire further from what the mayor was asking, the dissemination of the information. I think that we do get in our mailbox, either from the county, information about the hurricane. I think people are still complacent. Either they don't read it, they'll ignore it. So I was wondering, and you did make mention of that, to get especially the high rises. Will you be contacting the property managers?
Yes.
And would you be available to speak before the communities, the individual buildings at their board meetings?
That's the goal. I want to try and get in front of, the chief and I want to try and get in front of as many of the boards as possible. I know that
Mhm.
the meetings, through the summer, are either they don't have them or, that they're very infrequent. So I'm hoping beginning, this coming next month. And then as we go into fall and into winter, that, we'll be able to get in front of as many boards as possible, if not everybody. And talk about the things like this, trying to get people to register for the city, the city communications system, so that, so the things, when the city sends you something, or the town, I should say, town sends you something, you should probably want to read that. That would be the message, because it's gonna be something that's important, something that's gonna have an effect on you. And so I think that's where we want to go. But more than anything, we want to introduce ourselves, and get feedback. That's important. We want to get the feedback from the community so we can tailor some of the things that we want to do to their needs.
I have another suggestion, which I just thought of. I know in my building, when a new owner comes in or a renter comes in, they're shown where things are in the building. They're given a book with rules and regulations. I think the building should hand out this manual in addition to their building rules and regulations, so that people can't say they didn't know. And let them understand what it needs to be done in preparation for a hurricane.
So I mean, like I said, when we get out in front of people, we want to make some of those suggestions, make these available in the lobby. Hopefully I assume, within most of the homeowners associations, there's some list, of everybody that they can email out information to. I mean, certainly posted meetings and different things like that occur. And maybe we can, become part of that schedule. So that somebody in management or in the building, will take the initiative to put the stuff from the city out, just one more way. Unfortunately, it's probably impossible to get to everybody, just by the nature of, there's a lot of people that are, here 6 months, maybe even less out of the year. But it's important they get this information, as it relates to their property and themselves. And so we'll look at any suggestion you have on pursuing that and getting these things out. We want to take that in.
Thank you.
When can we have an attractive, I would imagine it's going to be colorful. There's going to be a cover. Is it something that will attract attention, that people will pick it up and read it?
As
And-
far as the manual,
The manual. Because my thought is, my question.
it's beautiful.
Well, I think that that if it is very colorful, this will attract them. There's a lot of things in the lobbies.
Yeah.
The newspaper we have and other magazines, so we want to call attention to it. And my question is, when will you have it available?
It's available now. As far as what happens with the homeowners, within the individual buildings, like I said, the suggestion was for them to make it available to the people in the building, by whatever means. I'm gonna try to get out there personally. That's the goal. I've been given that as my charge to contact the property owners. Now that we have, now that y'all gone ahead and approved the ordinance, we're getting the parts in place to allow me to go do that. And then have some, inroads to the community. And this is the beginning, and we're gonna keep at it. So, this is we're, halfway through the hurricane season. I know, we've been working on this and trying to get this out. It's the first step. And the next step is trying to, get this to as many people as possible by whatever means we can.
So it won't just be digital communication, it'll be
No.
hard copies. Would you be able to, I mean, can we afford this to have enough that we can actually make it available so that it makes it easier? Here it is, take
Like
it,
we-
let's distribute it.
In regard to us printing them out and delivering them to the different properties.
Well, my question is, is it the intent of the plan to have hard copies available as well?
Just one shared copy for everyone.
One,
No, I think the fire marshal chief are hitting the right spot, that this is like, if you think edition one, edition two, which we envision as we have these meetings with each condo, is that we could have a supplement that's building specific within each one. So Seagate will have something specific to Seagate. So if there's anything peculiar, what you guys do, if Bramer Isle shuts down the elevator to stress that point, so it could be, Hurricane Manual, Town of Highland Beach, and your condo would be the inevitable goal. So to have something very specific to you, especially when we get to the community paramedic that Dr. Cohen's talking about, it's really cool stuff. But those are, the end game that we're hoping to get to that's very specific. So everybody in your building, like you said, seems a little general, but if it has your condo name on it, maybe it bites a little bit more for the resident to say, oh, it's coming from our association as well. So
Yeah,
That's
we're hoping to get there.
excellent.
We'll print it out.
Just for sure.
excellent.
To that
Okay.
point, I mean, the document was sent out as a Word document, not, it's edited, they can edit it to their needs. And that was part of that's what I did in Boca. Exactly what city manager just mentioned is, some of the stuff does need to be tailored to that individual building. Because none of the buildings are the same. So that is definitely something that can happen. We need to communicate that out, and that's what we're working on.
Thank you.
So the state of planning for the town of Highland Beach, just to give an update, we called in the county, they have several shelters, right? They have pet-friendly shelters, they have regular shelters. And they have special needs shelters. I know in this community with our average age where it is, we need to have, there's gotta be special needs in the community. Well, we have nobody registered to the town in any of those shelters. Which means that, like you say, complacency, and nothing's gonna happen, and it may never happen in our lifetime, but we gotta have a plan, just like Commissioner Evelyn David said, we need to have a plan. So whatever the plan is, we'll help you make that plan, and we'll give you all the tools to make the plan. But at the end of the day, you need some family come up with a plan for your safety. Some towns, like ours, small, when somebody new moves in, not only does your HOA gives you a package, but the town gives you a package as well. This is where your stuff is. This is where, how to get to the library is what, some of the services that we provide is, 2 or 3 page. And then it's given to a new resident. It's like an introduction, gets you into the system. So, they're huge plans. The thing is, we gotta crawl, then walk, and then we'll run. So May 1st is my deadline to get things up and running. That's my priority. And after May 1st, the next year's hurricane season, we'll have a better plan moving forward, but we're doing what we can right now. One thing I failed to mention was that we'll be testing the hydrants starting in early October. And we'll send a notice out to all of the community to let them know that that's going to happen. But it might be a little bit wet, it might be a little bit messy, but we have to test the hydrants as part of the tri-annual assessment by ISO. So that's going to be starting probably in the first week, second week of October thereabouts. And it's going to go on for a couple, 3 weeks. All right, we'll send a notice to everybody, give you exact dates and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very exciting. Okay, item B, Florida Department of Transportation, R project update.
Haven't heard much from them, so I hope by our next meeting, I should have some more updates as it relates to construction timing or any final touches. As I believe they closed out construction design over the last couple of weeks, so we should start to hear more information, but it's been quiet over the holiday weekend.
Okay, next item, Building Department Recertification Program update.
Commission, how are you?
Good afternoon.
Good. Well, we made a lot of progress. We spoke with you last time, and it was recommended that we start making some phone calls. So our office did that. We had some great responses and we are in a much better place now than we were last time I was here. Not 100% compliant, but we're getting there. So at this time, of the 53 buildings that are required to go through the milestone inspection recertification program, we still only have one that has completed and is certified. That's Dalton. We have one that has submitted and completed its phase 1 reports. Now it's time for them to start the work and get the phase 2 going. We have 4 of them that started submitting reports, but didn't submit everything. We have 5 that we're reviewing right now that has submitted both electrical and structural. And this is a misleading number, says did not submit the reports within the due date. We reached out to them. It says 14, but it's really not 14, it's 8. Because 2 of those are, one of them is a community that has 4 buildings, so we're counting them per building. So right now we have 8 that we're working with, and it's technically down to 7 because I just approved an extension for St. Lucy's Church, which is on the list this morning. We have 8, make that 9, that have had an extension given. Usually these extensions are 30, 60, or 90 days, really not going any more than 90 days, because these are just the extensions for the inspection is due, not for all the work to be done, just to have the inspection, the phase 1, the visual inspection completed. And we have another 15 that were notified, but they're still not to their due date yet. So we're just sitting back and wait and see what happens as they come in. So we're really in good shape. We're really down to 7 buildings that we need to act on. If they don't respond appropriately, then we'll just start a code case with them because we've already reached out to them in person and with a phone call and a letter. And if they're still not compliant, at that point, we just go follow the ordinance and go to the code case, and that's it.
Great. Any comments?
Thank you.
Yeah, Jeff, I got one question. We just got our electrical recertification, and do we have to send that to you, or the engineer that completed would supposed to send that to you, the paperwork?
The engineer is supposed to send that
Okay.
directly to us
Okay,
per the state statute,
all
so
right,
that there's no interaction, it just comes direct, but sometimes we get it from,
okay,
as long as it's digitally signed and sealed or wet sealed, we're fine with that.
all right, beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks for the good news. Hopefully it'll continue being good.
It's good news and opportunities, that's
Yeah.
it.
Excellent. Okay. Moving on to new business, item 11. Item A, development application number 23-003, Le Sanctuaire Condominium Association. This is a consideration of an application for a major modification to an existing building as provided in section 3039 of the Town Code of Ordinances, including but not limited to changes to the exterior facade and balconies for the property located at 3425 South Ocean Boulevard by Mark Rothenberg of LMR Enterprises LLC. So I guess this is a public hearing. And I'd like to ask if any of the commissioners have had any ex parte communication with the parties involved with this project.
None.
Okay. So anyone wishing to provide public comments, if you could please let us know, you'll have to be sworn in.
Stand, raise your right hand. By the authority vested in me as a notary of the state of Florida, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Okay, town planner.
Okay,
Thank you.
good afternoon. For the record, Ingrid Allen, Town Planner. Before I get started, I just wanted to let you know, we've routed to the commission an 11/17 disposition plan. This was an error not included in the 11/17 packets that are in your handouts. So actually, if we could put up the PowerPoint, I do always like to start these types of presentations with some aerials. The aerials are actually included in your packets. They start on page 32. So here we have just a general aerial of the subject site, which is obviously outlined in red. This next photo is actually from Google Earth. I typically don't use Google Earth, but I felt that it gave a very good perspective of the front of the building as it currently exists. Here's another aerial of the front of the building. And then we have another aerial of the rear of the building, how it exists. These last two aerials were from January 2023. This is, again, a major modification to an existing building. And the town code is very clear about what a major modification is. I provided on page 28 of your packets, the description in the code of what a major modification is. That is, again, section 30-39 of the code. So it includes changes to the exterior facade. And I would say the gist of this major modification is about exterior changes to the facade. This includes modification to the architectural style. This includes the addition of pilasters to the front of the building. There's also decorative fins that are located to the front and also on the side of the buildings and the addition of wall and eyebrow architectural features. I'll get into the plans in just a moment. They're also replacing the balcony railings with glass, and they are also changing the roof tiles to a metal roof. Now let's go through the plans. Again, these are in your packets. They're those 11-by-17 plans. There we go. Okay, now I'm going too far. Okay. So I just highlighted a few things here. This is the first floor. So these are the decorative fins. This is looking above. This is a proposed pilaster here, 2 of them. Again, these are more of the fins. These are above. Now we're on the second floor. Again, decorative fins here on the side. These are also in the front, the pilasters here. And this is a proposed glass railing also up here as well. These are the 3rd and 4th floors, the same thing. The fins, the glass railing, they don't want to keep repeating the same. And then here you have the roof plan. This is a proposed louvered roof. And then here are the elevations that the applicants provided. This is a new front elevation, so much more modern feel to comparing it to the existing architecture. This is a rear elevation. This is a side elevation, the north, and this is the south side elevation. And these are just some of the details for some of these architectural features, the pilasters and what have you. Now, I do document in the staff report that the applicant is also proposing some new landscaping. They are not proposing any changes to the landscaping and FDOT's right of way at this time. They're also doing some changes to the configuration of the existing pool. They're changing windows and doors. They're adding a waterfall feature. And they're also doing some hardscape changes. They're replacing the pavers along the driveway, the pool, and north terrace. Now, all these items that I just mentioned, these do not trigger major modification. I put them in the staff report and they're called out in the plans just to give the commission a comprehensive look of all the changes that will eventually happen to the building. But again, what is before you are just those major modifications. Also, I've included in your packets some correspondence from FDP, Florida Department of Environmental Protection. Given that some of the modifications to this building are located east of that coastal construction control line, that typically triggers FDP approval. But in that correspondence, FDP indicated because you're not changing the building footprint, again, these are really aesthetic changes, it doesn't trigger a permit from them. So that's in your packet as well. And lastly, the code says that major modifications have to be approved the same way as the original building was approved. So in your staff report, I provided you some history on this project. It was approved by the commission in 1992. The planning board gave a recommendation 1992. So therefore the applicant had to go through that same process. They just couldn't stop at the planning board. They had to come to you because you approved the original building. And on August 10th of this year, the planning board did make a recommendation to the commission to approve it. The motion did carry 6-0. The request is compliant with the town code, with the zoning code. I'm happy to address any questions. Oh, I forgot, there's also the landscape plan. That's also in your packet. It's a little bit hard to see on the screen here. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so they're making some changes here. They're removing some trees, but they're replacing them, adding quite a bit of landscaping. And this is their hardscape plan. All this area will be repaved. The footprint will be the same, it's just a repaving. Here's showing the different configuration of the pool. I'm happy to address any questions, and the authorized agent for the application, Mr. Mark Rothenberg, is here as well to address any questions.
Would you like to make any comments at this time or? Okay.
No, just, they're our neighbor. Matter of fact, my condo is right next door to him. They're good neighbors and this is gorgeous. We're doing the same thing right now, so, we're equally involved. But I saw the pictures and that, and first time I met Mark, and they're gorgeous. This is like I'm
Stunning.
jealous. Yeah,
Stunning.
I live right over there, the third floor. Right there, yeah. Gorgeous, the waterfalls and everything.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Well, it adds to the beauty of the community, continues to be so beautiful.
Yeah, he built them.
Beautiful.
Another public comment, or does she need to be sworn in? Okay.
No,
With-
just one comment. Watched the video of the planning commission and obviously it answered all the questions. I think it's an outstanding project.
Yeah, I guess some of the things that came up was, there was no issue with the sea turtle lighting. There's no change to lighting.
They're not proposing any new lighting. Again, they're changing the windows and doors. Given we don't have a transmittance in our code, we are encouraging 45%, but it's not required. And that'll be done through a permit. Again, it's not part of the major.
It's not part of this,
Mhm.
okay. And I guess the drainage is also not an issue because it's
Not an
not,
issue for this project. Again, they're not adding to the building footprint. It doesn't trigger a drainage review.
Am I correct that the only reason it's coming to us is that it came to the commission to begin with?
Right, as I indicated in the staff report, right.
Yeah.
The code says for a major modification, it has to get approved in the same form that the original building was approved. So being that the commission approved it in 1992, it can't just stop at the planning board. The planning board in this case acts as an advisory board or recommending board. So they made the recommendation to you all to approve it. And then you obviously, the commission has the final authority.
And otherwise, all the plans submitted comply with our code?
Yes, in the staff report, I indicate that it's compliant with the zoning code.
yeah, it really is a beautiful design. It will be gorgeous and a nice improvement for sure. Yeah. Okay, so there, the applicant's not, it. Would you like to make any additional comments? No, okay. Okay, now we can open it up for the public. David. wanna come?
Chris Villegas from Clarendon, 3407 South Ocean, just a couple down from you. I just had a question. I also serve on the Natural Resources Board, and we are trying to begin to get some sea oats planted on the ocean side of your complex. And Ingrid is very aware of our recent discussions. So I'm wondering, would you consider looking or talking to Ingrid about helping to build small dunes? That's what we're trying to do. And I'm talking, little things. If we get a surge, sea oats help hold that sand. And so we're beginning the process of talking to condo buildings on the Natural Resource Board. So is that something that you would be interested in exploring as you do some renovation? And I know you're not doing new landscaping, but as you're doing the outside of the building.
Can he go up now? Is that all right? Yes, go ahead.
Mark Rothenberg. I'm happy to listen to what you have to suggest or what the oats entail. We didn't have a plan to do anything to the sea grapes or anything seaward of the coastal construction line other than replace the dune crossover in its exact condition that it was in. It was just 30 years old. But I'm happy to talk about the sea oats. Is it an alternative to the sea grapes or it's in addition to the sea grapes? And does it exceed 36 inches high or obstruct views? So we'd be happy to consider that.
Yeah, Mark, we're looking to do the same thing next year. We'll pay some sea oats. They're better than the sea grapes, holding the roots. And I went to the meeting last week and they're explaining everything. So it's a process that we think we're gonna be doing next door to you.
So I'd be happy to tag along with what you do at Villanova.
Thank you.
Excellent. So we're ready to make a motion. Okay, so I guess if there's no more public comments, we'll close the public hearing. And we can entertain a motion.
I move that we approve development application number 23-003.
I'll
Second.
second it.
We have roll call.
Okay. Commissioner David,
Yes.
Commissioner Peters,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg.
Yes,
Vice Mayor Stern
Yes,
and Mayor Moore.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you very much. Next item B, consideration of a request for a Town of Highland Beach right-of-way permit for the property located at 4005 South Ocean Boulevard.
Commission, Jeff Remus, building official, Town of Highland Beach. I only have about 160 slides. We should be done by about 4:50 PM. But anyway, this is a pretty easy one. This is another good one. So 4005 South Ocean Boulevard, maybe 2 months ago, we issued a brand new certificate of occupancy, completed construction. And they were done. We thought we were finished. There's a potential new owner who doesn't like the driveway. And they're literally only replacing the covering of the driveway, but of course, a big portion of that is in the right of way. We had a resolution passed that any right of way permits have to be approved by the commission. There should be a drawing in there that shows you what they're doing. They've already started it with a separate permit to complete the upper section. It actually looks really good. And now they just need the permission. I can't issue the regular driveway permit until we get the right of way permit approved by the commission. And we are recommending approval on this. It's basically adding about 3/4 of an inch. It's not changing pitch. It's not changing drainage. It's not changing anything. But it is work that's being performed in the right of way. And there is a representative, if you happen to have any questions, from the original GC who's coordinating this work that built the original home.
I guess, I think the
So-
purpose of us looking at it is so that they know that the Florida Department of Transportation will be doing, what's the timing of the project and how?
What-
where
They're
the-
almost done. They're just waiting to come down the driveway at this point. They've already done the upper section. FDOT already approved it. What they're doing, they basically extended, they saw what they were doing. They extended the length of their existing permit to say, yep, it's okay what you're doing. And that's it. But because it's work being performed in the right of way, under the driveway, it requires a right of way permit. And per our ordinance, until the R project is completed, the commission has to approve all right of way permits on A1A.
Is there any potential for the R project to damage the new driveway that they're installing? Is that,
That would be FDOT's responsibility.
and they'll-
And if they're going to extend on that side, I don't know what the specifics are with FDOT, but they're aware of it. They've approved it, and whatever adjustments they have to make, they're going to have to make.
yeah, so they're aware this project's happening and
Yep.
so that was
Fully
kind
aware.
of the purpose of us
Absolutely.
requiring this, so. Okay, any other comments or questions?
no, it would appear you have approved, the building department has approved it, if that has approved it.
Yes.
So there's nothing standing in way except before
Right,
the
I
approval
can't,
of
right,
the.
I can't issue the permit until the right of way permit is approved,
Mhm.
and that's why we're here.
Okay, thank you.
will this trigger us having to have another amendment to our agreement with FDOT?
No,
No, this
Because
is
we
just a
did-
driveway. This would
Yeah.
require the landscaping,
yeah,
which
they're-
requires the MOA to be adjusted. So there's no landscaping, it's just driveway for driveway.
Okay, thank you.
We could have a motion, please.
I move that we accept the request for right-of-way permit for addition to their driveway, 4005 South Ocean Boulevard.
Second,
Do we need a roll call for this or no? All in favor? Say
aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, thank you very much. Next item, resolution number 2023-024, a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, adopting fiscal year 2023-2024 schedule of fees, which establishes reasonable fees for town services and other charges, providing for conflicts and providing an effective date.
So every fall, we approve the fee schedule. I know Vice Mayor Stern sent out a general question regarding what are we seeing different from last year? There are no fee increases or changes that you'll see. There is a refund policy that was unclear for the building department, so we clarified how somebody would get a refund. And then again, your solid waste is tied to the contract amount. That's why you see 2 years split there, because the contract was renewed outside of our budget cycle. So you'll see the turnover as of the June 1st date, correct? Yes, June 1st. So nothing's changed. Fees are consistent. Jeff, discount, we're still good. Still giving discounts for building permits for our residents. Everything's holding in place.
I have one question. On the solid waste for multiple family, says $17.46 per month. Is that per unit in the building? Because it doesn't read that way.
Yes, it is. It's per unit. So they do the multiplier for you because it changes how the collection attains it to that container style and the roll offs and things of that nature.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Would you like us to clarify that on final publication? We could say per unit.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Per month, per unit, so double that.
Monthly, sure.
Any other comments or questions?
Oh,
No.
that's-
Okay, excellent. We can have a motion, please.
Do we have an item number on here?
Oh.
I move that we approve resolution number 2023-024, approving the schedule of fees as presented.
Seconded,
A roll call, okay.
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg,
yes.
Commissioner Peters,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stern,
Yes.
and Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item, discussion on past charter amendments and upcoming referendum questions. So shall we start on the canvassing item, I guess? Okay. Our town attorney?
Yeah, probably the easiest to start
Okay,
there
and
because
then- okay.
All right, so as you're aware, we've been through the charter process a couple of times and maybe we're going to, is this a lot enough?
Okay.
How's that? Okay, we've been through the charter process a few times and maybe we'll go through it again. One of the amendments I know that we talked about last time, but didn't make it on the ballot was the canvassing board. I think those of you that experienced the canvassing board experience, know it's a wonderful experience that you really don't need to repeat again. So if that's one that you want to move forward on, we would develop the language, you would consider it as an ordinance and then place it on the ballot. You see the supervisor elections is opening up some space on ballots this coming March, but you have a tight time frame. I think early December is when she wants the ballot question to her. So you're probably looking at, first reading ideally, no later than October and second reading November. So if that's one that you're interested in, we can put that together. I know it's been talked about a lot in the past. Any comments on that one?
Only can we talk about the timings? So, of the readings? So you're,
To make a first reading, you've got to have 15 days at a minimum between the second reading.
okay, so we
publish
don't have
in
to
the
wait
paper.
until the next month, right? We could
It
just
depends
wait.
on your meetings in October. So if we
Right.
miss the first meeting, you're hitting that third week in October. It's going to hit November because you're going to push it before the holiday week.
Right.
Then you hit
Okay.
it to that first
So
week.
we could
December.
do, okay, so we could
There's a
do the
little
second,
bit of
right,
room,
right,
but he's
okay.
corrected. We should
Okay.
hit it in October, hit it again in
Okay.
November.
But we
then-
can do the second week of October. It doesn't have to, we could,
Right,
we
right,
could
right.
include,
I'm-
so we can have more discussions.
September 19th. That's a little pushing it to try and get a first reading. That's why I said October. I'm thinking the same as Marshall, first reading in October, the first meeting in October,
Right.
first reading,
Right,
and then second reading, either the second meeting in October or the first in November.
okay,
Correct. And and again, we could do special meetings, so we
Right.
could hit these separately to keep, regular business moving and handle these subjects slightly different. And again, once we make that decision that we're gonna use canvassing board because it seems to be a safe community space to talk about on charters. So if we say we're gonna go to the county canvassing board, soon as we say Marshall, prepare it, we can't directly communicate with the residents, which is the trick, right? Because of that new statute. So we won't be able to send out direct stuff outside of check the minutes, refer to the minutes. We could have a little workshop, special meetings, hopefully draw folks. But once we say that, it triggers our inability to reach out to the community once we say we're going to do this. So,
but we can talk at meetings.
oh,
We can
all,
talk at
this is
meetings.
safe space.
It's
Safe
the,
space.
it's the afterward, the communication of via email or social media or whatever. It's the after that we can't.
Correct. That's when we can't spend town dollars to directly communicate with the residents. So that's the trick. Once we decide to move forward with something, we're in a difficult spot to make sure everyone knows what's happening. And again, if we recall from our conversation, I can't put it in the manager's minute and say, hey, the commission discussed these things and decided to do this because of X, Y, and Z. That's what we've always done, is just, here's the education behind it. We can't do that anymore. So it makes it a little bit more challenging. Or as Jeff was saying earlier, presents a new opportunity to communicate with the public and hopefully engage and see if there are issues that we can address. And again, I did put in this list as we start moving into the other, you saw the last 5 questions. One of the 5 did well, the other 4 did not, for various reasons. Staff is now starting to look at, there's probably some capital projects on the horizon. If not now, we're gonna be coming to that well pretty soon, just because of the dollars that are necessary to move some of these capital projects forward in the sense that they exceed that spending limit. We'll have that conversation again at the 501 budget meeting, when our consultant and Peggy Gossett-Simon here, Representative Gossett-Simon, I gotta remember that now, formal. If she makes an appropriation request for us, our match is capped at 350. Even if she can go, she's got some ears up there listening to her. If she could get a bigger number, we can't meet our obligation to match that bigger number. So it kind of limits our ask a little bit. So those are things, so if that's the case, then we have to start considering, what capital projects. And then I sent you the CIP, so you could start seeing, one of them is what are we gonna do with the old fire station? More than 350. We have the sewer lining project. Even if we get great loans and partly appropriation, we need resident approval to go line the sewers because it exceeds that amount. So those are things that we need to start looking at as to how we want to ask those questions with certain capital like the sewer. Just from, as your town manager, I would say, ask that one early. So if it fails, we could find a different way to ask it, because we need that sewer project has to happen at some point. Otherwise, we're going to be chasing breaks. And once we chase breaks, we can't line it anymore. So those are the conversations that are kind of set up for you. This is some tough
So-
sledding here, so.
Go ahead.
Just a quick question. Let's just take the example you gave. If in fact there's a referendum to change the charter to a spending limit, at the same time you have these other projects, if in fact they can't be on there separately, if you don't pass the spending limit, you're gonna have to wait until the next go around to put those things on. So that's really got to be considered as we put this together.
Correct. And it's twofold as well. If the project's bigger than our cash reserve request, I have to ask the charter question regardless to pledge the full faith and credit of the community, the ad valorem for a bond, because we've used the non-ad valorem portions up for the fire station. So we would need, the authorization to pledge that full faith and credit in some fashion. You'll determine what those details are, but if we need to borrow like from an SRF, which is the State Revolving Fund Program, which is built for sewer projects for communities like this that are low interest from the federal government, we still need to probably have them borrow some money from them in some capacity. Even if we offset it with cash, we still need to borrow some. So
Marshall, can we say like the spending, which seems to be a subject, can we present it to the residents and just here's what would be the spending? Would that be legal and just have the residents give their output?
yeah, we could start,
In this meeting, yeah.
at these meetings, we could start having special meetings on it. I always think, how do we get their attention? Raise your taxes, see if they show up, right? But we're saying at 5 o'clock, we're not going to raise your taxes. So I guess we kind of defeated
right.
ourselves. But yeah, we could have special meetings saying, we're going to talk about this. Please show up and help. But we did that last time too. Under different circumstances. I get it. So I'm just saying, yes, that would be the ideal way is to draw folks in and say, is there something we could all live with as a community? Because it could get to some of the smaller capital projects that are teetering on 350. If that moved upward, maybe that doesn't become as a crisis ask to ask the residents right away for certain capital projects. If we had more room to get up there or more leverage to do an appropriation, like the appropriation we got for the lift station, we threw in money and got the state to match. What we'll hear again at 5 o'clock from our consultant and from a representative is the legislator and the governor are excited about infrastructure projects, excited, so those are good chances for us to, maybe that's where our ask is, whether it's the next lift station or the sewer lining in some fashion. It's something to consider.
So then what you're saying is if we can only give $350,000 in matching funds, the state will never give us more than $350,000, even if they might be willing to give us more.
We could ask and leverage. We could ask and say, we can go up to 349, 99. That's the last check I can write with one of your counter signatures. That's as far as we can go. And say, can you give us $2.5 million to match it? I don't know. We'll hear this afternoon if that's a possibility, but I think we did well with our current appropriation because we were able to leverage several $100,000 against theirs to do that project, which allowed us to go slightly beyond the 350 capacity because we could leverage ours and then we got the earmark to tie to it. So it was a good thing to have the ability to do.
All of those things mean that you are delaying any project by as much as 2 years. If you have to go to the legislature, first you have to have it approved by the legislature, then the governor has to agree to sign it. And if he doesn't, you bring it back again the next session. This could go on forever.
And technically, to get in the SRF program, I can't apply until we have resident approval, right? Because I can't ask to go through their program and get scored to borrow money through this program if we are not authorized to do it by the residents. So it does take a lot. So you figure you wait 8 months to ask a question. Once you get the question, then you can make application. They're 12 to 15 months in their federal process. It starts the 2-year clock for timing of pieces. Good, bad, or indifferent. That's the clock we're going to operate in currently to qualify.
So even if we have a project that's a $500,000 project, it could take us 2 years to start it.
Potentially, yes. We have to be a little bit of a delay on the sewer is okay, like a 2-year window, because that's just the natural timing. Because I don't want to hit a summer with FDOT, right, everyone? And then come back the next summer with, even though pipelining doesn't block up the roads, it does create an encumbrance in the roadway and some partial delays on it. So we just have to be cognizant of how we do that. And again, if we ask the question appropriately on sewer lining, we could also look at, because I know there's with cash, we could break it over a couple of years. We pay a little bit more to mobilize, but we can mobilize each summer for 3 years. It'll cost more than 350, but we mobilize over that. At least it's the slower time. And we're encumbering that right away with less traffic. Does help a little bit. Then I got to jump into a project in February, March, and I don't want to take those phone calls. But you know, we gotta, you know, plan this. But if we get the question, if we get a yes from the community, then we could space it however we see fit. You can phase an SRF project too. You just got to pay that extra mobilization. That's all.
Well, what I see this, if we can get a referendum, a different spending limit, it will speed the process of getting things done. Which, that's big problem with government, is things don't get done quickly. And if we have to have this other step, that's a problem.
And that's where I kick it over to you. Glenn and I could put the language together that you need. You know, guide us.
Talk about,
Guide us how you want to
exact,
go.
like, I don't know, maybe each of us could maybe, share their opinion on what referendum questions we want to ask. So for example, maybe I'll start. So you can see what if this is the way we want to proceed, and you can let me know if you have a different approach. But I would suggest we have a referendum question about the canvassing board. We have a referendum question about raising the limit for the spending limit, the capital project for the rehabilitation of the fire station, the sewer lining, and of the lift stations. And so I guess like if we could have start drafting referendum questions so that we can specifically start talking about them.
I think we're okay with the next lift station. So I try to pull back on. I fear a busy ballot scares people.
Yes.
So I would just, you know, as we move, if we can pull a lift station off simply, I would pull it off now and look at the other items. But again, you know, that's a hard, we've tried a couple times. Maybe we didn't take the right approach or didn't communicate it correct, but now we don't get the communication part to correct. So we just leave it out there and hope people show up.
I think
So
we need to hear from everyone. What do you guys want to see on the referendum?
I-
So that's what I would like to hear.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that, as was recommended by the FAB a number of years ago, and that's change of salary for the commissioners, vice mayor, everybody except the mayor, because she didn't put it on her list. No, seriously, I would like to revisit that.
Who wants to go next? Commissioner Peters, you want to go next?
Well, I agree with you. I mean, the main thing is the spending, salary. I don't know for us, I don't think we're up here for the money. We love this community, so, that one, but I agree with you, what you said. Those are the main issues I think we have.
Yeah, I think the spending limit in my mind is the top of the list. Canvassing board, sewer lining. The bottom of the list is salary change because it's not going to amount to anything.
What do you think about the capital projects?
Well, that's the spending limit.
Okay, but like the old fire station, that's going to be
Yeah.
probably above any spending limit that we would ever get.
Well, then
right?
that would have to, yeah, because you don't want to just leave that old fire station in a dangerous condition. You need to have it renovated so that it's usable. And we can't even come up with plans unless it's approved.
with the old fire station at the next meeting, I'm hoping Sam has some conceptual renderings and cost estimates to take a look at, to say, and again, just to let folks know, the conversation we've been having over the years is we've removed the old living quarters and the like. We need the bays for the vehicles.
Right.
The concept is to create some type of door opening to the side of the old bays once the inside's demoed, a couple outdoor bathrooms, public bathrooms, maybe a pergola for the sun. So then we could have outdoor events, things of that nature back into that space. We could flex that into some extra parking. It's kind of the concept. But that's what the rendering Sam's gonna come back with and say, do you like it, not like it? It would help, when we have these meetings with the community, say, this is what we're thinking. Is this something we can do?
Might be a place we can have our voting too,
That'd be nice.
as a community center, combination of everything.
Commissioner Goldberg, would you like to?
Yeah, is that possible actually to do that? As far
well-
as voting?
Well, voting, we're, folks, I was gonna talk about my manager stuff, but this is your precinct now. We gotta bring it back to town hall somewhere. The diocese is not interested in continuing to serve as a voting precinct, so we're gonna have to do it here. Linelda and I are trying to work out making the best of it come March, because we're still under heavy construction. It's gonna be a kind of a plug spot, and we have a primary, some charter questions, 3 positional folks up, so we're gonna be voting here from now on, so we gotta try to find extra parking is always key to me, is parking. First and foremost, the more parking we can get, 3, 4, they're like gold, each of your condo buildings, I know I've talked to each of you, an extra parking space is like, it's like a treasure, right? So more of those we can add into the site and flex that space. And again, there was those community events we started having in the public, maybe even outdoor concert, moving it up front with a space that would be, I think it's gonna serve well to bring the community together moving forward. We're just gotta figure out, when Sam has some basic drawings, we're gonna run it through Kaufman Lynn to give us a construction cost, just so we have a better idea of what we would think that number might be. But bringing it back to charter, you're right, and maybe it's I don't know where the commission goes with that number, right? Everyone always wonders, what is that number we get to if we're willing to go to that number? That's all. And the
Yeah.
charter
So-
spending limit, what that number might be, may indicate we could pull a few things back because they're not gonna hit that new number. About 350, we're gonna hit them more often and it's gonna be more frequent, but.
I have questioned, I have a number of questions and some comments. With regard to a time frame to decide what referendum, what are the issues that are going to be addressed? What would that be?
Well, so we are a little bit on a tight timeline. I
Very
mean,
tight time.
so if there are a couple, I think we're just gonna be doing this over the next couple of years. We just gotta carefully plan that if this is what your interest is, we'll, tie it back to the strategic plans, the questions we choose not to. And then we'll see whatever the questions you do move forward, what that success rate is or isn't, or what issues we have, because we're gonna be facing for the first time, I can't even send anything to the community to say why you did something without directing them to just come back and check the minutes. Or come to a meeting, and then we're gonna come to a meeting, we have limited parking, so it's a little bit of a twist to figure out where we go and how we get it, but as we talked about through the budget, that those inflationary headwinds, this, that, even when they cool, the prices have elevated, we're getting to 350 quicker. And we saw that with the budget for chemicals, this, that, the lift station, motors, pumps, that we're catching that number pretty quickly. Which is fine, but then we just got to ask a lot of questions every year for capital, so.
Well, I see that the most important to me is the spending limit, to increase that. And then secondly, the education, getting it out to the public. Well, can we have workshops? Okay, so a time frame. How many workshops do we need? Over what period of time? Do we have through October? Can we go into November? How many
No.
sessions? Okay, that's the
No,
information I'm
because
asking
you've
for.
got to have this in front of the supervisor of elections by December 1st.
Fine,
So,
that's
and you
the-
have to have 2 readings before that.
so that
which
brings us to where?
Means
To October.
Yeah, I mean, I think-
October.
Yeah. Sep-
October, that's what I
Sep-
thought.
September, the next
Okay.
6 weeks or so is when we really have to narrow it down. I'd say.
So how will we design what that workshop is going to be? If there's going to be 2 or 3? And then are we dealing with how many issues? I think also, as far as from a voting perspective, I mean, this is just my personal opinion. That if you're going to have 5, as an example, that's a lot. It may be too much, especially the wording is probably stilted, legalese. People may just skip over it. I'm not interested. So the education portion is very important on each one of these. I think that with the spending limit, that workshop, we could talk about the strategic, what our priorities are, what we need, and with the limitations, especially with respect to receiving matching funds and how that impedes our ability to do that. I think that is very significant.
Also, for practical purposes, you can really only have referendums on the ballot in the March elections. Is that correct? So if it's not this year, it's, waits till a whole year later. I think that perhaps in a workshop, we can throw out more ideas and get feedback and then pare it down for the actual referendum selection.
I would suggest that we have that, perhaps, we'll have a few of them. I don't know, the commission, the manager would have this information. What would be optimal to attract the most people? Would it be evening meetings or day meetings? In September, well, September, we have so many meetings planned, really.
We've tried them all. I can just say FDOT's here and they'll show up. But I'm just kidding. But you know, we could do a mix if you wanted, you know, later in the day, in the afternoon, evening. It all depends. It depends on what, you know, the community's interested in, and it's hard to gauge that.
And as far as parking with that, you brought that up. Perhaps we could have a shuttle service and designate at what, in front of what high rise, for instance, or what street. There's going to be a shuttle service, so it'll enhance people. It'll be easier for them to, or give them more motivation to show up. I wouldn't
have
mind.
a comment. I don't know if
I
it's a
wouldn't
good time to
mind
jump
even
in.
having, I mean, there has to be something more to draw the people. Let's serve coffee. Let's have some cake. Let's have people. It's a
Lunch
community event.
I mean, it's unreasonable to think like just to do this during our regular meetings. I mean, people know we meet, people know that we meet the first and third Tuesday. I think personally, we kind of know what we want the referendum questions to be. It's a short list. I guess I was hoping we could kind of narrow down the scope and then, you know, maybe start getting a rough draft of what these items might be. And you know, I don't know if it's reasonable to expect staff would have these drafts. I don't know, let's say we have 5 questions and we can always toss them out. I don't know that we have to limit it right now, you know, 5 questions. Let's say we ultimately think we only really want 3, but I don't know, let's start with a draft of 5. Give direction for staff to bring it to the September 19th meeting, and we kind of toss it around and then see what kind of engagement we have. Perhaps we can, you know, have a little help of getting people engaged on, you know, on this, just to draw attention. Because we already have those meetings. I mean, I guess I've sat through meetings to discuss marine accessories. Very few people came. I think the only one that really drew a lot of attention was the FDOT meeting.
The Dune thing was all right. That did a pretty decent turnout, I thought, for the community. I thought we got folks out. It was an evening meeting. I just don't know if some of these topics are, you know, canvassing board.
Right.
No one's thinking about
Right.
that at home. You
People
know, no
don't
one's,
really know what that is.
I say
because
spending-
It's not what you think it is.
I say spending limit and I can feel the room rise up in tension. What do you mean? You know, so those are things that we're gonna, you know,
Yeah, anything that's spending a lot of money, you're gonna get a lot of people here.
yeah, and I wouldn't, from my conversations amongst everybody, residents, I don't see the number being humongous, but at the same time, you know, at some point, somebody's gonna have to say a number, see how everybody flinches, and we work from that. I think one lesson we may have learned, and we kind of, I think, we kind of said it here is we got to kind of keep it simple. The language simpler. I think we maybe got a little bit too verbose. Sorry, counselor, but I mean, maybe that's, maybe some way to make it a little more plain English
Yes,
might help us because we can't communicate what we mean as well this time around. So I think we're in that space where we're gonna have to keep it simplistic or straightforward. Don't mince our words, be X for this. We need authorize us to spend and finance up to $5 million to fix the sewer system. That's it.
Yes,
Something
right.
that simple, if that's what you decide to do, is easy,
And if I may, I mean, that is kind of what I think would be good to start off with perhaps. So, we direct staff, the spending limit, do a question about the spending limit. So my recommendation was spending limit, the sewer lining project, the canvassing board. And then I think we only have one in favor of salary. I'm not in favor of salary, but if we want to put the salary on there, that's fine with me too. And then we can talk about it. We can have it an agenda item next week and maybe kind of see how it goes. And then if we need more workshops, maybe we can decide at the next meeting, but I don't think it needs to be that complicated. Honestly, I've lived through this a little bit and I feel like we kind of need to toss a question out there and then let's discuss it. I kind of have an idea about the spending limit personally. With how it went this past time. I think a lot of us do too, because it was an issue with, with the elections.
can you add to the list the rehab of there must be a better word, but with the firehouse, the old firehouse?
Yes, yeah.
I mean, that
Sure.
strikes me as something that's going to grab the attention. Because that's an opportunity for us to have community events.
Yeah.
The library has had in the past, well, they do have music events, they've had dancing. They've had, there are things that I believe we can draw people out. Also, we have this building. And we're not going to be maximizing the use of it. So in that respect, how would that even be? I mean, we have to have an idea what we want to do with it, how much space, what are the possibilities? And then we can formulate that perfect sentence that will communicate what we need to do for that.
So I think there's 5 items, right? We just have 5,
Strategy.
which isn't too bad. Spending limit, canvassing board, sewer lining, fire station, old fire station, and the salary for commissions.
Yep.
So could we have a draft
Yep.
by the next meeting? And should we, I mean, I don't know if you want to leave the actual amount.
I'll leave that
blank.
out. I will just
And,
present language and
and
then you
then
can decide
perhaps
if
we
there's something, all of them, none of them,
Right.
we can come up, fine tune the timeline a little bit better and see if there's an interest there to move it forward.
And see how smoothly it goes. And if we need to add more workshops, then we can.
Well, I think we should have at least one workshop at night, among other things. There'll be better parking. And also you've got some hot button topics here, and I think that will bring people out. Some of the other things people were, they didn't really care so much about, so they weren't going to come to that. But some of these topics I think will bring people.
We
Would
also
the-
have the
would-
issue of,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, would the fire station be ready or can that wait for another year? Because would that be
Well, it's up to you all. I'll get the drawings just so you can get an idea. I mean,
Right,
putting
right.
together the drawings and stuff, it's gonna be relatively straightforward because we have the old architecturals and we looked at it a lot because we were considering building up and around and over it, but we found that it just didn't have the footings and the ability to, so that project's more of demo, some paint, a new door wall, a couple bathrooms, and from where it's already plumbed, it's just have to do some picking it up. So maybe the number isn't as bad as I fear it could be. So,
It's a beautification project.
yeah?
I mean, it's kind of,
Great
once
idea.
the space is gone, we don't really have the need for the space. And if we didn't, we can't just leave it there. We're gonna have to do something. There's mold and we got stuff that if we leave it, it's gonna just get worse. Right now, we're keeping everything at bay, keeping it functional for the next 6 months. But it eventually is gonna need some heavy investment to keep it in its current layout. So either in demo, we'll see what that is. Demo, we can't just demo because we need the bays. So it's a double-edged sword, you know?
You could only demo part of it.
That's all we
Ins-
need to do is
in-
demo part, yeah.
Inside,
I mean, it was built like in 2 pieces, so we're taking the old part, we're keeping the bays, which are in good shape, just knocking down the old beat up living quarters. Put a couple bathrooms in, put a roll-up door and pave it underneath, and we're there. All the plumbing, all of the drainage is in with the fire station, so it's relatively just almost a continuation, but it was never initially budgeted, so. But we could bring back just the questions and then let you decide from there. We'll frame it out a little bit, give you some language, tell us which way you want to go. You get more time to think about it. Then go from there.
Okay, so how does that sound? We'll bring those 5 questions, they'll have a draft of those 5 questions for next meeting. And I mean, and I guess really, if someone has a 6th or a 7th question, we can always bring it up at that next meeting. There's nothing that says we can't add it. And it also doesn't mean that we're gonna have this big load of questions. We can eliminate some before the actual referendum. So I think that's a good plan and kind of keeps us on track and hopefully moving in the direction. And then maybe next week, the next meeting, we can talk about when we want to have an evening meeting or something that would perhaps get
Move it.
more public input.
unfortunately, we would have to have it before a lot of people are back. But we don't have a choice in the matter.
True. I think you could just move a meeting to a little bit later to keep it on schedule, the November meeting, whatever, to do it, have that in the evening where it's just special meeting to consider it. But again, it depends on the questions too. I mean, if it comes out at the end of the day, it's just the canvassing board. I wouldn't lose much sleep
Yeah.
on it as much as just build out the question and folks will kind of get it. The question I didn't get from Lens, though, if I may, we don't pass it. Say commission says canvassing board, we're going to the county and the community says, not so fast. We want to keep our own canvassing board. Wendy Links says, I'm not doing it.
Right.
Are we forced to go that without doing anything? We're forced to do it. I don't know how we would.
Yeah, I don't think we have an answer to that yet because we're hoping she's not going to say you're forced, but
could,
she
yeah.
very well is indicating that she might, you know. I mean, it just doesn't make sense for her to do 1 or 2 towns in the whole county differently than they do everybody else.
But if in fact she says under statute, I'm not obligated to participate in your local community because I'm not elected from your local community. Indirectly she is, but then we almost would have to follow the line, and effective law preempts our charter, wouldn't it? In some case.
I'm not going to answer that yet.
Okay.
That's,
She already said no, right? We already had that issue the last.
But I'm just
sorry,
saying,
I
what if we
didn't
don't
hear
say
you.
yes, then.
She
already-
already didn't participate. She wasn't on the canvassing board. Yeah. Right. We already have.
So do we need an affirmative response from her before we put it on a referendum?
Well, she's gonna indicate she doesn't want to do it. I think
Right.
that we could safely
Pretty
move
sure she-
forward.
right.
Yeah, she's indicated that throughout the county, multiple locations to you all. So I don't think she really wants to do it. I mean, if we ask and it fails and ask again, maybe she'll wait a session, but I'm not getting the vibe that they want to continue on that process.
And we're only one of like 2 towns that don't use the supervisor of election anyway. And to be honest, they count and they look at this stuff. So when you're on the canvassing board and you're going up there and you're spending 5 or 6 meetings to just sit there and look at a half a dozen signatures, that's crazy. I mean, why wouldn't we want them to do it for us? I don't know.
And the other thing, the public is welcome to those meetings. So they publish all the meetings and anyone from the public can observe the entire process. So it doesn't preclude anyone from observing the
You don't
process. So it really, it's kind of a win-win because we get their expertise of overseeing, the elections, and then we still have the ability as the public to observe, what goes on. So I think it's a pretty, I don't know, being part of it, it's pretty obvious.
Also, it's not just observed for the public. The public has the right to question any particular signature that they see. So they can participate to some extent.
So I'll bring the questions back 19th. And we'll
Perfect.
pick and choose and vote on each
And-
one,
and
see if
we'll
we,
discuss
see
it
if we want to
further.
do anything. Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Okay, moving on to commissioner comments. Yeah, public comments. Sorry. Go ahead, public comments.
I hadn't planned to talk on this one, but just a couple of thoughts. In terms of the referendum, one of the things that was real clear is that previous commissions lost the faith of the public by a lot of its actions. Probably foremost was the 36 or $38 million bond issue and how that was conducted and where that went. And that was key. So when you started talking about the maximum amount of money that could be spent, there was a lot of concern about that. Well, they're going to apply in December, and in January, they're going to apply for some more and just, double what they're doing. You might want to take a look at all the emails that were circulating regarding the 5 questions and see what the comments are, because that'll probably be helpful for you. So that would be my suggestion. Canvassing board, I represented a party for the county canvassing board. I do have one other thing I do want to ask. Madam Mayor, can you please request from the county a copy of the 2005 archaeological report and a copy of the notes of the public 2005 hearing? Can you please request those two? And if you could, let me know. I'd love to see them as well.
I made notes of that, so yes.
Yeah, I think that would be a good question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. Come on.
Hi, Chris Villegas, Clarendon. Just a thought as I heard you talk about the questions. And I think it's great to bring a lot of questions, but then think about it. People in the town, from what I am hearing, just in day-to-day conversation, they're watching closely. Is the firehouse going to be on budget, on time? People are saying, oh, it's over budget. I've heard it's over budget. And so there's things like that. And that was our last big election before this last commission election. So I'm not sure I'd want to see 5 things for vote next March. And I certainly wouldn't want a pay increase. I don't know what you're talking about for salaries, maybe go to 0. That would be great. Go back to a volunteer board. But the town, you've done great work with the FDOT and saving the trees and redoing that project. People are just, they know that values have gone up, more money is coming in the city coffers. So to try to put it in a perspective of stepping it, doing, maybe you do one this year and then one the next year. Certainly the one you've talked about in terms of the cap seems very reasonable to me, but pick your questions carefully, because this isn't all smooth sailing. I think there's still some nervousness with people about really what is the commission doing, and how much are they going to try to get in the coffers? We didn't get a decrease this year. So I would just give you that caution, from my perspective.
Can I make a comment a little bit? You're right, more has come in, but our expenses went up too. Because you've got to give salary increases to people. They don't want to stay the same. And the cost of supplies go up. So even though we're getting in more because the valuation is higher. We need it. Otherwise, we would have to be pulling out of reserves for everything. So, yeah.
Good discussion. Any other comments? Yes, please. No worries.
My name is Jason Chudnovsky. I'm on your planning board. But this summer, I have interviewed probably 120 different residents that have been living down here in Highland Beach. And I'll just give you their attitudes. And it's not about money. They love what's happening. They drive down the strip, they see buildings changing, they hear about the upgrades that are going to take place, and they want to live life. And whether they're in their 40s, 50s, or whether they're in their 90s, people don't want to look at Highland Beach as a nursing home. They want to see life. So when the dollars are coming up, I think most people that are living down here full-time that have had any kind of business acumen understand they're looking for a return on the investment, but they're willing to make the investment. So I hear less conversation about is Marshall spending appropriate dollars. I hear more conversation about, boy, what this place is going to look like in the next 2 years. And this is what we're going to have. And this is what we're going to be able to do. My background's out of the trade show industry, so I'm a believer in bringing a lot of people together. We're planning to have a health expo on campus here in Highland Beach. And we've had a tremendous response from it, not about passing away, but living life. So my only comment, and I thank you for your service, is that I don't know what a lot of people are hearing, but for someone who lives down here on a daily basis, who's out there a lot with people, I'm hearing incredible positives about what people are going to see in the next 2 years. And that's just what I'd like to pass. And thank you very much for your service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent discussion. It's great to hear comments from the public. So can move on to commissioner comments. Commissioner Goldberg.
Yes, I agree with the last two comments very much. I think that we are extraordinary here in Highland Beach. Not only do we have the beauty, but I think that we have to show a celebration of our community and the fire department and how it's proceeding. And we see again, to reiterate, the buildings are changing. And despite the fact that myself included, we have to bear the burden of paying these extraordinary assessments. But at the same time, we see that the town is adding to our enjoyment of life, our beauty, and the asset value. And I think that it's wonderful. I compliment the building department and especially the flexibility that they are giving to the high rises. I know that we're working with them closely where I live at Seagate. And listening to what Jason has said, that's very heartening that people are appreciating that. So I think that we should continue to, and with respect to what we want to do in the future, address what we want to accomplish slowly, simply, and frame it in the narrative of continuing to improve and celebrate our community. And then I think that it'll be less burdensome when they see the legalese and they may understand it, and they may just embrace it. So I'm very hopeful that that's what we're going to create here, continue to create on the commission. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Jason, for being on the planning board, because when you approve it, it comes to us, I feel a little better, and it helps us a lot in our decision. Wednesday, I went to the Natural Resources Preservation Board meeting. Very interesting. Christine is on it. Ingrid's there. What a great commission. And we put 3 people on it since I've been on it. And They just seem to complement each other. But they had the woman from Penthouse Towers, Elaine Prentice, and unbelievable on her COs and her demonstration and that. And I highly try to, I'm all for COs and helping. I'll get my neighbor and then when he's doing his COs there. But thank you, everybody. We got great boards and I really like to thank them for donating all their time. Thank you.
I personally, and I believe the same is true for everyone else on this commission. Anything I decide to do is for the benefit of this town. That we need to, our buildings are improving, they're putting in hurricane windows, they're fixing the facade so it looks more modern. We're painting, we're getting the buildings recertified, which is a big deal. And the town has to step up and basically be recertified as well. That we don't have to start from scratch. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, but you need to make sure that the tire doesn't go flat. And that's what I think we try to do. I don't think we are looking to spend all the money we possibly can spend. I don't think that's true of any of us. We all want to get value for what we are spending. And I'm sorry if people don't feel that way. So.
Just want to say thank you for the public comments. They were positive and they were very productive. Thank you very much.
Yeah, definitely. It was great to have you guys here and it really helps the engagement and hearing what is on people's mind. Marshall and I have a meeting with Commissioner Woodward tomorrow on Malani Park, so your comments are timely. I will definitely, it will be an opportunity to ask for those documents that you had requested. Town attorney, anything else?
Sounds like Marshall and I got some work to do.
Yeah.
You sure do, Glenn.
Tell me.
I was waiting for
Right,
that.
right.
I gave you a
You queued-
softball,
you-
buddy.
You queued that up pretty well. Yeah, so we'll get to questions. Thanks for the direction, guidance, public comment. Good to see everyone coming back and starting to engage. This is great. I heard you loud and clear, so I've got some good marching orders moving forward. In case folks don't stay for the budget meeting at 5:01, it's so great. With our consultant here. But again, we went into next year's budget recognizing next year is our most expensive year, building the fire station, holding 2 departments. And what, I can't make promises on behalf of the commission, but the budget does get a lot better once we get out of next year. Next year is the big lift year. Once we get past that, we'll have our own fire department that's in a controllable environment for costs. We won't have 2 fire departments for any portion of the year. The capital's done. We'll be in a great shop where instead of spending all that, we're basically looking at debt service over that short period of time. So we're really framed up. You're committed to that 5-year forecast and model where we saw this was the big hold our breath a year and then we'll come out on the other side. So I think we're in great position. Yeah, so Linelda and I have been talking again. We're gonna have the election here in March. It's gonna be tricky, chief. You're gonna have to direct some traffic here. And I know people at the county don't want to see police presence, so it's not an intimidation tag, just helping people get into the limited parking spot, controlling traffic on site. But we're gonna have to do it here moving forward. So Linelda and I are trying to figure out what's the best way. There'll be some, we'll have to shut the building down, minimize staff. Staff will have to park at the church. That's not a problem. Father Horgan allows staff to be there. That's not a diocese directive for staff. So we're gonna have limited parking, so I would tell folks that are listening, watching, vote by mail would be a good time for it. It's a little bit tricky in March, but those that are diehard in person will get you here, I promise. Be a little hectic. Chief and his team will be here to make sure you get in the right spots and don't run into anybody and we'll make the best of it. But again, if you could vote by mail, it'd probably be a good year for it. Just to be, simplify it. We'll look at if there are means to transport folks to and from. The difficulty is sometimes some of those vehicles have a difficult time turning around in here. If we were thinking the old trolley that we love so much. It's a little difficult to move around when you've got every parking spot and people walking everywhere. So we'll figure out a way to make it work, and we'll bring it back. Our plan as we go forward, get your approval on it. And early voting.
Yeah,
Oh,
quick
and there's always
question. Is
early
there
voting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was
There's
gonna
other
ask.
places to vote and
So
get
that's-
out there.
So maybe we can encourage people to do that, because that's, no waiting or anything. Like you've got like 2 weeks before election day. I normally do that myself.
So when you talk to your neighbors, just let them know it's gonna be here moving forward for a while, just a little bit of patience, cap on that day for the rush times, first thing in the morning, later in the evening. Usually we're more of a morning community. So that morning is it'll be a little dicey, but we'll make it work and get people in and out.
Maybe you can push out things about early voting and where it is and all that
We'll
kind
do
of
that. We'll
stuff.
Start hitting
Um,
the reminder to that early, I know the county had sent out the vote by mail stuff. I know she had sent that out already, so maybe we'll hit that on our weekly updates just to get folks to start registering and logging into it. And, you got to do it annually now, but just, take a
But-
moment,
So
log
the
in.
early voting is usually like at the public library. It's the 2 weeks prior to election day. It's open, right? Is that what we're talking about? So you can actually, you don't have to do a vote by mail. You can
Correct.
actually go to the Spanish River, Boca Raton Library and actually vote in person. So for the 2 weeks prior to election day.
So we're just trying to get the statistics. Usually we have, 500-600 people that want to vote in person. So we still, well, that's a smaller of our majority number that vote. We still need to accommodate those folks. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. So you have the statistics? Do you have a microphone? There you go.
So the SOE said for the general election that occurred in 2022, there was 889 people voted in person on election day. 1,224 voted by mail, and 540 people voted early voting.
Wow, we get good turnout. We get good turnout. And all three of those spots. That's great. That's
So
really great.
currently,
What election was that? Was the May? Or the
that
March?
was the general election in 2022. I think that was November.
Oh, the November, but March is
Not-
never that
not-
much of a turnout.
Right, because we have the PPP.
Right, so they're
and
expecting more.
That's why they gave the
Oh,
number.
okay.
For those watching in my acronym wall, what's PPP?
Presidential preference
Primary.
primary
Yeah,
election.
right, right. Okay, so we should have more because it's the presidential primary. So, yeah. So vote early. I highly recommend it. You can even make an appointment. You can online, you can make an appointment for like the 15-minute time slot that you think you'll show up. So there's like they've made it so convenient.
That information over to send out.
That's all I got.
Okay, well, with that, we can adjourn. It's 3:33. Thank you very much,
See everybody
everyone.
back at 5:01.
Yeah, see everybody back. in an hour and a
5:01.
half.